Right, let's get started. So, how was your exam on Thursday night? Pretty good? Easy? Okay, so I haven't finished grading yet. So, plan so far, Tuesday we're gonna review the exam, hand out the test, talk about it. Okay. Today we're gonna talk about chapter 5, and hopefully we'll finish chapter 5 on next week. Also review. And also a couple of you actually emailed me that you want to attend Career Expo today. So that's why all are attend. They all are present today for this class. No, I didn't know some. Make sense? Some of you will visit the Career Expo. So I said, okay, it's fine. If you want to go there, I'll record and you can watch the video. So no attendance. You all are present. Any questions from chapter 5? So far, we only talked about forward market, right? Any questions so far? Okay, let's move on to future market. So when we talk about future market, it's very similar to forward contract or forward market in terms of it's a contract. That means obligation. I really don't know how to do this. And it stops. So similarly, forward and future. It's a contract, it's an obligation from both parties. So if you engage in any contract today, you have to execute the contract at future. So there's a similarity, but there are some differences. What are the differences? When you talk about future contracts, standard contracts. That means in terms of number of units, in terms of time to maturity, they are pretty standard. Being a long or short side, being one of the party in the contract, you have no authority, no power to change, to tweak those terms and conditions, which is maybe how many number of units you want to trade, maybe when you want to trade. Those are standards already decided. You cannot change. Future market is generally more liquid than forward market. Reason is it's traded on the exchange. Therefore, it's more liquid. And this is the most important future market in the US, Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Now, if you look here, these are some examples like currency future contract traded on CME. You can look, unit spot contract I mentioned. If you want to trade all those currency against US dollar, units are mentioned. Standard. If you want to participate in the contract, you have to accept those units per contract. You cannot say, let's make a contract for Australian dollar for 50,000 units. You cannot say that. If you want to do it, you have to go to forward market, right? You have to engage in forward contract. But for future contracts, units are determined, terms to maturity are already determined. You decide you want to participate or not. Now, some trading of future contracts. So if you want to trade any future contracts, you can easily do it by contracting with your brokerage. And those are like very standard procedures. You can call your brokerage. You can make an electronic trading by calling the brokerage. And all those information like comes to maturity. What should be the rate you want to engage or you want to lock it? Those are actually pre-mentioned, predetermined. The standard contracts. Now, if you want to talk about the credit risk of future contract, what do you think? Is there any credit risk or counterparty risk in the future contract? Is there any credit risk or counterparty risk for future contract? Yes, no. You want to say something? Why? We talked about it a lot. Yes or no? Why? Exchange traded. So if the other party do not want to trade, what's going to happen? So let's say I'm in the long side, you are all in the short side. I make contract with you. And now I don't want to trade because things are adverse my situation, right? What's going to happen? Because if I don't want to trade, there is a credit risk or counterparty risk, right? But you guys are saying no. So that means even if I don't want to trade, it will be executed. Why and how? Why and how? We have talked about it a lot. Why there is no counterparty risk in the future contract? If I don't want to trade because price moves against my position, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? No idea. So basically, the exchange will kick in, right? And exchange will take the long side for me. Now, if exchange want to take the long side, is it exchange bearing any losses? Because price moved against my direction, right? If I want to make the contract, I'm gonna make the losses, right? Do you think exchange will be taking the losses? One of the very important characteristics to initiate future contract is called margin requirement. So let's say today I am the long, you guys are the short. Okay. I want to buy some Mexican peso. Let's say I want to buy 10,000 units of Mexican peso 1 month from today. And the rate I logged in today is basically 0.05, let's say. 1 Mexican peso or 5 cents. So the current rate is, I believe, 0.054 around. If that has happened, how the transaction look like? Here, 1 month later, what are you going to do? I have to pay 0.05 times 10,000. How much it should be? I believe it should be $500. Right? I have to pay $500 1 month from now, and I receive 10,000 units of Mexican peso. And if you're on the short side, you're doing the opposite one, right? Make sense? Now, let's say 1 month from now, This is the Mexican peso rate on the spot rate. I still need 10,000 units of Mexican peso, but 1 month from now, when is the day to execute the trade? This is the rate going on the market. Is it good for me to still execute the transaction? You see, if I go to the market, I just need to pay how much? $400 only, right? If I go to the market and want to buy, not from with you, I can say $100, right? I can easily decline the contract, right? If it's a forward. If it's a forward, I can easily decline the contract and say $100. But if it's a future contract, things gonna be not like this. Now, how things gonna move? On day 0, that is called margin requirement. And there are basically 2 different types of margin requirement. One is called initial margin, and the other is called maintenance margin. So right now, how much is the contract value? $500, right? $500. So depending on broker to broker, depending on different time and situation, exchange house brokers, they actually play with the requirement rate. Okay, they actually play with the requirement rate. Sometimes they say 20% is the requirement. Sometimes they say 10% is the requirement. But depending on time to time, SEC rules and regulations, market volatility, those get changed. Now let's say the broker you trade with, you and I trade with, they decided 20% should be the initial margin rate, and 15% should be the maintenance margin rate. If this is the situation, what does it mean? 20% of $500. $100? 20% of $500, $100. So today, both you as a short, I as a long, has to deposit $100. Deposit, it's not paying anything to each other. We are depositing to the broker or the exchange or the clearinghouse. Both you and I, both short and long, is depositing this much. Now, every trading days, let's say this is 1 month, which means 30 days, right? Every trading day, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 30, depending on that day, for trade, there will be contract value, right? If it goes to 6, goes to 4, goes to 3, goes to something, there's a contract value, right? Depending on that contract value, 500, 550, 450, both you and I, both long and short, have to maintain 50% of the maintenance margin. Making sense? We have to maintain each day maintenance margin. If stock price moves very, very sharply, one of the party is making losses. That party will have to inject more cash onto the contract so that at least we have 50% of the maintenance margin. Make sense? 50% of the maintenance margin. So throughout this way, until day 30, we both have to deposit that money. So now, on that day, if I am the wrong, I decided I don't want to execute the transaction. What's gonna happen? I'm losing this $100. Also, due to fluctuations, if I have deposited more cash to maintain 50% of margin, I will also lose this money, right? Even if I don't want to execute the transaction, exchange house has the difference. Even if they just took the other side and execute the contract, they are not bearing the loss. Who already take the loss? It's me, right? Or whichever party for which price moved against. That's why for future contract, starting with margin, keep depositing money until the transaction date. If we don't want to do that, we will lose the difference. Exchange house will really make the transactions. That's why you can see here margin requirement. Always for future contract there is a margin requirement, and that's why exchange house can easily confirm the execution of the transaction at the settlement for the transaction. That's why for future contract there is no credit risk, no counterparty risk. Makes sense? Questions? Now moving on, if you want to compare futures with forward contracts. So they are basically similar in terms of transactions. We both lock in at a certain rate today, and we both exchange certain amount of money at the transaction day to make the transaction there, and it's an obligation. It's both similar. Now, how can we price future contract? How can we price the future contract? In the last class, we learned how can we price forward contract, right? So if I ask you again, how can you price forward contract? You're doing what? Interest rate differentials, right? So the idea is, if we want to price and currency forward contract, you have to think about the interest rate differential between the two countries for which the contract is related, right? And you have to think about the interest rate differentials between the two countries to price the forward contract, right? Same way. If you want to price a future contract, the interest rate differential. Okay. One of the things we have to understand is why the major difference between forward and future contract is the credit risk or counterparty. So that's why interest rate differential may be less than forward contract. So the interest rate differential in future contract may be, it could not be true always, may be less than forward contract. But other than that, the process is same thing. You have to think about current spot rate. You have to think about the holding period or the settlement period interest rate differentials, right? And if you use the same formula, you will get the future price of the contract you want to do. Same thing. Question so far? Now here are some differences which you already learned between forward and future contract. So we know that size of forward contract you can customize, right? For future standard, you cannot customize. You have to accept it. Delivery date, or you can think of transaction date, the time to maturity. For forward, you can customize. Futures, you cannot. These are some participants. in the forward market, future market. Security deposit, none for the forward contract. For the future contract, you have to, what you call margin requirement, right? Clearing operations, no separate clearing function. This is the exchange. When you talk about clearing house, that means a middleman who is facilitating a transaction, right? So for future contract, the middleman is basically the exchange. Regulation, self-regulating. Here, exchange actually makes the regulation. Liquidity. We mostly offset by actual delivery. But here we offset not by actual delivery. If you can remember from the last class, we talked about forward contract. Let's say we buy a forward contract today, and 1 month from now we decided we do not need forward contract, right? How can we offset? We can offset by another forward contract, right? To match the delivery. So basically, forward contracts for liquidity are mostly offset by delivery. Transaction cost set by banks. Here you can negotiate with the brokerage. So these are some basic differences between forward and futures. Now we can talk about how firms use currency futures for hedging. So when we talk about hedging, we basically mean we already have exposure due to our natural course of business, right? As a result, we want to minimize the risk for currency exchange rate fluctuations, right? So we have to make some contract so that we can go for hedging. Now let's say 1 month from now, you have a third-party vendor in Mexico. You need 10,000 units of Mexican peso to pay that vendor, right? So you have some third-party outsourcing contractor or vendor that provide you service for your business. Now, 1 month from now, you have to need 10,000 Mexican peso. You want to do future contract. Now, how can you hedge this position? Any idea? How can you hedge? US dollar is the home currency. How can you hedge? Tell me first, what do you need to do 1 month from now? You need to buy peso or you need to sell peso? What do you have to do 1 month from now? You need to buy peso or you need to sell peso? If you need to pay to your Mexican contract, what do you need to do 1 month from now? Buy or sell? Buy peso, right? So using your US dollar, you have to buy peso, right? So that means if you purchase the future contract and lock into certain rate, 1 month from now, on that rate, you will pay dollar and buy some peso. Using this 10,000 unit, you can pay your Mexican contractor. And if you lock the price today, you can avoid any fluctuation in the Mexican currencies with US dollar. Make sense? So buying a forward contract today can help to manage your payables, liabilities. Now, if we flip the story, you have a subsidiary in Mexico, and 1 month from now, that subsidiary will send you 10,000 pesos as a part of sharing revenue. And you want to avoid currency fluctuations with Mexican peso. How can you manage it? Home currency US dollar, foreign currency peso. So always think from the viewpoint of foreign currency. So what do you want to do with the foreign currency? 1 month from now, you have to buy foreign currency, you have to sell foreign currency. Sell, right? So that means if you have any receivables, you can sell a future contract that 1 month from now, you will sell this foreign currency and receive US dollar. If you lock in today and fix rate, what you can avoid risk of losses due to currency fluctuation. Makes sense? Closing out future positions. So closing out means on that day, expiration date, how can you close out your existing positions? Sellers of the currency can close out the positions by buying identical future contracts prior to settlement. What does it mean? "15 days from now, you believe you don't need the future contract anymore because you don't want to pay the contractor in Mexico, or what else? You are not receiving any money from your subsidiary. What you can do? Yeah, you can go for similar amount, 10,000 peso. But now the maturity should be remaining 15 days, not 1 month, right? So that on that day, you can offset each other. At the same day, you have one long, you have one short. For similar amount of Mexican peso, you can close out the positions. That's the limit. How can you offset or close out the future positions? So this graph actually trying to explain what we talked just now. So let's say January 10, you want to make a future contract to buy this much of Australian dollar, 53 cents for each Australian dollar, 53 cents. That's your contract. Contract expires March 19. This is the settlement day. This is the transaction day, right? Because you're expecting on March 19, you have some exposure with Australian dollar and you want to avoid fluctuations on the exchange rate, right? On February 15, for some reasons, you believe that your exposure to Australian dollar on March 19 is basically nullified. There is no more exposure. Maybe you are not doing business with Australia anymore. Now, what's going on? You have no exposure to Australian dollar, but you have a long position of a future contract, right? That's an obligation. On this day, you have to pay dollar and buy Australian dollar, right? How can you offset? Answer is, on February 15, you can engage another future contract where you'll be selling similar amount of Australian dollar. but it is not possible to lock in the previous rate, right? So that's why on the settlement date, look here, long paying 50,000, short receiving 50,000, $3,000 amount of loss. But you are able to offset your exposure to 100,000 Australian dollars. So by creating this new contract, you actually nullified your exposure to Australian dollar at the settlement date, and you will find this amount of loss. Make sense? Future contract, how to price future contract, how to transact future contract, and how to offset the future contract. Questions? Speculations. How can you do speculations with future contract? So basically, if you have expectations for the exchange rate, you can always speculate with the future contract, right? If you have expectations for the exchange rate. So this is an example of speculation. So let's say you want to speculate with Mexican peso. Right now, you're on the short side. You sell a future contract on Mexican peso this much, right? What does it mean? You're using dollar and sell peso. That should be the price at the settlement date. And going forward, before the settlement date, you are waiting. Peso price could go down, right? Before the settlement date, you find that there is a day when on the spot, you are able to buy Mexican peso at that much, right? So you're paying this much, 40,000 US dollars to get 500 or 500,000 Mexican peso, right? On the settlement date, you're able to close out the positions, but you'll be making $5,000. So how can you make money? You have to have some expectations. How can you speculate? You have to have some expectation, right? On the future contract, you are able to sell 1 peso and 9 cents. 1 peso 9 cents you're able to sell. But going forward on some day, you find that you're able to buy 1 peso and 8 cents. Each 1 cent is a profit, right? On this 500,000 peso. Those are the positions, make some money. You can do it with your own money, it's possible. It's up to you to build the expectation. You build expectations, you decide what you want to do, and then you can make money. Now, you guys tell me why you are calling this example as speculation. Why this is not hedging? Because initially, we talked about this example and talked about some hedging, right? Now, why you are calling this as a speculation? So one of the major assumptions from this example is the person who is trying to make these transactions, it's not reducing the exposure of the natural operation, right? It's not reducing the risk of the exposure coming from natural business. That person doesn't have any vendor in Mexico, that person doesn't have any subsidiary to Mr. Capital from Mexico, right? What he's trying to do? on the expectations, trying to trade, trying to make money. Therefore, it's speculation. Question so far. Future contract, hedging and speculation. Now, if the future market is efficient, so the efficient means price reflects all the available information regarding two currencies, any kind of risk exposure, two currencies, interest rate differentials. Price reflect all the available informations. If this is true, it is almost tough to make abnormal profits. What does it mean? If you look at this example, this price is basically future price of June 17 settlement day, right? If that price will reflect all the informations, all the transactions, all the economic policies, all the events, then if you make the future contract here, in the middle, you should not get sufficient volatility to buy at this price and make some money. You should not. If the future price do not reflect all the available informations, you can make abnormal profit by trading future contract. What do you think? Future market is efficient? Is future market efficient? Is even stock market efficient? Any idea? Are you able to make speculative profit from trading fancy futures? It's possible. It's really, really possible. So future market, you will get opportunities to make those speculative contracts and make money from there. So we are done with future market. We'll be moving on to option market. Any questions you want me to go over about future market? Moving on to option. What is the major difference between contract and options? When you say options, how they're different from forward contract, future contract? Option for whom? Let's say I want to make options with you. I'm on the long side, you on the short side. Is it options for both or one of the other or whom? It's option for both. For whom? For the short, it's an option. Buyer is a long, seller is a short. For the buyer, long. So basically, let's say this is 0, this is 1. I'm the long side, you are the short side. You can think about options very similar to insurance. If you have a car insurance and if you wreck, if you file for the claim, do you think insurance can say, I'm not going to pay you? I know there are terms and conditions, they'll try to say it doesn't match with that conditions, blah, blah, blah. But assuming it matches with all terms and conditions, do you think insurance can tell you, I will not pay you coverage? Is it possible? Insurance will say, I will not pay for the coverage. If you have a liability insurance, you hit someone, damage the car, If insurance can say that I'm not paying liability, is it possible? Definitely no, right? You can think about option is like insurance. You're buying insurance coverage. That's why today long is pay the price. Short receive the price. Expiration. Expiration. Long decide what to do. Long decide what to do. Let's start with a very basic example. Let's say we are doing option on stock. Forget about currency. Okay. So let's say one, I don't know, Amazon stock. We want to make an option contract for one Amazon stock. And for option contract, the price today, let's say $1. If I'm the long side, I'm paying you $1 today. If you're in the short side, you will receive $1 today. Now we both logged in. I have the right, not you. I will decide on expiration date what to do. You guys just have to honor it. Okay. Now we logged in a price, hypothetically, let's say $100. We have to be careful. For forward contract, we call forward price. For future contract, we call it future price. The price is logged in. For option, we call it strike price or exercise price. Same thing. Different group, different author follow differently. Strike or exercise price. Strike or exercise price. It's actually the same thing. You're locking in the price. Different group, different author, use different notification. Some say K, some say X, but the same thing. At expiration, stock of Amazon could trade anywhere, right? It could trade more than 100, it could trade 100, it could trade less than 100. Make sense? So here, at expiration, stock would be 100, more than 100, less than 100, right? If stock is trading at $110 at expiration, we are logged in $100. If I am the long side, do you think I should exercise the contract? Why? Why should I execute the contract? So don't get confused, because when you say forward and future, we call it execution. When you go to option market, we say strike it. Because the ball is in my court, I'm the long side, I'll decide. But for the forward futures, ball is not in anyone's court. Both has to perform, right? So if the Amazon stock price is 110, so do you think I should exercise? Why?
$100 for the stock.
Absolutely. Because if I have to go to the market, I have to pay $110 to buy the stock, right? But as I already logged in with you, I can pay $100 and get an asset worth more than $100. It's good for me. So I decided I will exercise and you have nothing to do. Just honor my decision. Make sense? What if the price is $100? What should we do? I'm missing all of my students from my investment class. They may be in career expo. What should we do? If the stock price is $100, strike it, not strike it. So basically, if you think rationally, if you go to the market, you have to be $100. If you strike the contract, you have to be $100, right? So we are indifferent. We can either go to the market, buy one unit of Amazon, pay $100, or you can strike the contract option, pay $100, get one unit of Amazon, right? So this is called indifferent or neutral state. Now, what if Amazon is $90? What should we do? Should we strike it? Because if you strike it, you're gonna pay $100 for an asset that is worth $90. Why should we do that? We can easily go to the market, pay $90 and get one unit of Amazon. Make sense? One thing you have to make sure, you have to understand, this $1 is gone. When we're making a decision here, this doesn't make sense anymore. Okay? So we have to be careful. What is the difference between payoff and profit in the option sale? So when we say payoff, payoff at expiration, always payoff at expiration, not today. Payoff at expiration is basically S minus X or K for a call. It's for a call. We're talking about on a call. Okay? Profit is minus X. This is the price. We only make the decision or expiration based on payoff. Because this is already gone. Even if I exercise, even if I don't exercise, $1 is gone. It will not affect our decision here what to do. Make sense? How call works in terms of stock. Similar thing. Moving on to currency setting. Call for currency. So let's change this. Let's change, we want to do 10,000 Mexican peso, 10,000 units of Mexican peso. For that, let's say we pay 50 cents of price today. Okay? And we decided this should be the price, strike or exercise price, right? 1 Mexican peso, 5 cents. Here at expiration, the exchange rate at expiration could be this, could be this. Sorry, this is 0.05, right? So it should be 0.05. So it should be 0.06. It should be 0.04. We logged in for 10,000 units of Mexican peso, and the price is 0.05 or 5 cents, right? And we paid 50 cents today for the call option price. What we should do? Call is a right to buy, okay? We've already gone through that. Call is a right to buy. If this is the situation at expiration, what we should do? For 10,000 units of peso. when we should exercise, when we should not. Let's say the exchange rate of expiration is 6 cents. What do you want to do? Do you want to exercise or no? 1 month from now, when it comes to the settlement day, exchange rate on the market is 6 cents. You want to buy 10,000 units of Mexican peso, we go for a call option, on call, right to buy. You want to exercise or no? Why? Because if you want to trade in the market in this rate, it's gonna cost you $600, right? 10,000 times this much, right? But you're already logged in this rate, so it's gonna cost you $500. So that means if you go to the market, you need more money, you need to pay more money to get 10,000 units of peso. And if you exercise, you need less money, right? Similarly, 1 month from now, this is the exchange rate on that day, indifferent. You can execute. You can say, I don't want to execute that guy, I don't like him, I have to go to the market. Same thing, financially doesn't matter. Both will end with same payout. For this one, do we want to execute? If 1 month from now, exchange rate is 4 cents, whereas we logged in 5 cents. Do we want to execute? Yes, no, or indifferent? Yes, no, indifferent. These are good practice for your final exam. No, right? Do you want to execute? Because if we go to the market, we need to pay only $400, right? But if we exercise the contract, we'll be paying $500. So the idea is, if you get confused, 0.06, 0.05, 0.04 times 10,000 times 10,000 times 10,000. $600, $500, $400, right? This is what you are logged in from day zero, right? If the market is running above it, it's better to exercise because going to market means paying more. If the market is running exactly at this one, both ways fine. Market is running below this one, don't exercise the contract. It will end up paying you more, rather go to the market so that you can save some money. Right? Questions so far? Yes.
Price that per trade or per unit of currency?
Those are per unit of currency. Per unit of currency.
You're paying 50 cents for each case you're getting.
Not 55 cents, 0.05. You are paying 5 cents for each.
Yeah, you like the price though.
Oh, this one? Oh, sorry. So you're talking about this one, right?
Mhm.
So basically, price is always in terms of contract. Makes sense? Always in terms of contract. But there is another complexity. In the market, practices, you cannot buy one contract at a time. You have to buy 100 contracts at a time, most of the cases. They will represent all information. The price is basically in terms of one contract, but if you go to the Bloomberg, if you want to trade in general, you cannot buy one contract. You have to buy 100 contracts. But right now we are talking in terms of one contract. So this price is for the one contract. You only pay completely 50 cents entirely. Make sense? But this is basically part one into price. But good questions. So and this is gone. There's zero, it's gone. Even if you strike, do not strike, doesn't matter, it's gone. You can think of it as a sunk cost. And it will not affect your decision here. Questions? Our currency called what? Now, there are some specific names. So basically, at expiration, if this is the spot rate, which is shown by this result, spot rate minus the strike price rate, at expiration, if this is positive, the difference is positive, that is specifically known as income. At expiration, the spot price of your asset is more than strike of the locked-in price, known as income. Or call. We are only talking about call. Because things will be completely upside down when we start talking to from price. Make sense? We're talking about call. Zero. When the relationship is zero, this is called at. Out of it. Make sense? The definition is clear. Spot exchange rate is greater than strike in the money equal at the money, make it out of money. Very easy to make decision. If the option is trading in the money, always exercise. Option is trading at the money, indifferent. You can do whatever you want to do. Option is trading out of the money, do not exercise. Make sense? Good so far? If you feel it's going above the head, we have time to fix it. Now, what affects this price today, okay? The easy way to learn what affects the price is to go to a derivative class or investment class, run the Black-Scholes option pricing model, which you will not do here in class because this is a topic you either learn in investment class or derivative class. Run the Black-Scholes pricing model and then say what affects this price to go up or go down. But let's talk about the quantitative side. Quantitative side, what affects the price of any call or put option. So the idea is, if you look here, three components. This is basically your payoff at expiration, right? Look same. Payoff at expiration, right? Time of the contract. Volatility of your asset price. So you can think about this on different currency you want to trade, right? So I didn't have the currency, not contracts on the trade, right? So the very basic intuition, the more the probability you can end up in the money, price should be more. Let's say option price is zero, okay? Call option price is zero, let's say. Please have call option price is zero. So the call option price is zero, and you have the right at expiration to strike or not. When you want to strike, when you're making money, right? Isn't it like $1 million dream? Like if the call option price is zero, we all invest in call option for nothing today, and then at expiration, we only exercise if it's in the money, right? No risk, no cost, make money, right? Isn't it like a gamble? So the idea is very basic intuitions. The more the probability that you will be in the money, price should be more. So if this gap is more, option price should be more. Why? Let me explain from the stock side. So you're talking about Amazon $100, right? So the probability that 1 month from now, Amazon will end up with $100, let's say, probability that Amazon will end up with $100, and you want to make an option contract, call option at $70. What is the probability? You definitely get profit very high, right? There is alternative options. You want to make another contract where strike price is $99. What is the profit? Or is the probability you do at expiration? Very less. Another option, strike price 105. You will definitely end up with making losses, right? So the idea is more this gap, you have more probability to get money, or you have more probability to end up in the call, in the money options at expiration, right? Higher spot rate, very good strike price, higher the option price will be. Because otherwise, if the option price is zero and you are trying to get an options that strike 70, otherwise you all want to execute that, right? Easy money. There's a thing. Length of time, longer the time, it is more probable that your asset price is above the strike price at a settlement day or expiration day, right? Because if you go for 6-month option contract versus 15 days option contract, there's a lot of time for any day the stock price could be above the strike, right? On that day, you can exercise that money, right? More rent, more probability to make money, option price should be more. Volatility of the currency. So when you say volatility, what does it mean? Think about Amazon price. This is 100, okay? This is days, 1, 2, 30 days, right? If it's not volatile, straight, no volatility, right? If it is highly volatile, it will be like that. You can find some days trading 140, 150, pay the $90 or $70 strike and get an asset of 130 or 140, right? More probability of making money, right? Higher the volatility, higher the price. Very, very basic intuition. Think about these 3 factors. If for any situations that lead you to make money from the option contract, that should be more. Okay, because in the financial market there is no free lunch. You have to pay for your lunch, and this is it. Question so far? All good? Alpha use currency call options, same thing. If they have payables, in foreign currency, they have to buy foreign currency in future food, right? They can run call options. If they want to buy something, subsidiaries or anything in the foreign country, they need foreign currency, they have to buy it, right? These are the examples. They can lock in any rate today. So that in future, if there's nothing happen, they can protect themselves from kinds. Questions? All good. So try to go over all those things we covered today. If you feel like you're struggling, feel free to reach out to me, okay? So that's all. Tuesday, we're gonna go over the test and remaining part of this slide. Option.